My name is Bradley Cosgrove. I'm a partner at the Clifford law office. To my immediate left is Rafal Zapolsky. To my immediate right is Mariola Zapolsky. And to her right is Sarah F. King from the Clifford law office. We wanted to start out by saying thank you everybody for being here. We find this to be a very important day for the Zapolsky family and also for women's health throughout the Chicagoland area. We believe the verdict that was entered yesterday by a jury in Cook County was a victory for patients' rights throughout the area. In fact, you will find out that this is a circumstance that began dating back to September and October of 2007, and there is one of our trial exhibits has a timeline that really sets forth the timing of what occurred in this circumstance. Mariola Zapolsky went to see a physician by the name of Dr. Zbigniew Aniel on September 26, 2007 for the first time. At that point, she was 37 years old. She saw the doctor for a medical condition in which the physician assessed her, treated her, and saw her again on October 3rd of 2007. And then the circumstance that really led to the trial would have been 10/18 of 07, which is the time in which my client, Mariola Zapolsky, made a telephone call to her physician, Dr. Zbigniew Aniel, and complained of having irregular bleeding, in which he prescribed for her an estrogen-based birth control pill named Yasmin. Under the circumstances for this patient, Yasmin was a dangerous drug for her, and it was an inappropriate choice because of Mariola Zapolsky's underlying risk factors. The prescription of Yasmin for Mariola Zapolsky was filled the following day, October 19th, 2007. She got the package, which everybody has had an opportunity to see, I believe. She picked up her Yasmin from CVS Pharmacy on October 19th, 2007. She went and she took 13 pills of her package. This would be 13 days, and on November the 1st, 2007, she had a massive, debilitating stroke that caused permanent paralysis on her left side with loss of use of her left hand, left foot. She has issues with brain functioning, cognitive function. She has permanent brain damage from the stroke, all related to the estrogen that was prescribed for Mariola Zapolsky contained within the Yasmin birth control pill. For this particular patient, she had several underlying risk factors, one of which you'll see is one of our exhibits that we had used throughout the trial. And her underlying risk factors together combined with the estrogen-based birth control pill Yasmin to cause a stroke. Under the circumstances, physicians like the defendant in our case, Dr. Zbigniew Aniel, has appropriate options in which you could manage a patient that has underlying risk factors such as these. Under the circumstances in which were presented to Dr. Aniel on October 18th, 2007, he could have prescribed what's called a progesterone-only pill to manage her medical condition, which carries with it little to no risk, in direct comparison to Yasmin, which for this particular patient had an especially high risk. And now Mariola Zapolsky is in a wheelchair, as everybody has been able to see. She's wheelchair bound, and she will be in it for the rest of her life. One of the things in which we are particularly happy and feel that there was a verdict that will help make sure Mariola Zapolsky is cared for the rest of her life. She, in fact, was awarded on the verdict form a section of reasonable and necessary medical care and treatment into the future for the sum of $6.9 million, which actually was based upon a thorough assessment by a physical medicine and rehabilitation physician, a neuropsychological evaluation, and an economic analysis to determine the cost of her future needs. The jury spoke very loudly in its verdict in awarding the full amount of medical care necessary to make sure that Mariola Zapolsky is cared for the rest of her life. We're especially happy with that. They also had taken into consideration all of Mariola Zapolski's other damages, including her disability, her pain, suffering, and emotional distress that has gone along with her complete change in life. Have it to the left of me, I have her husband, Rafal Zapolski, who is going to read to you a very short statement that he has prepared about the verdict.
I want to thank my lawyers, Brett Cosgrove, Sarah King, and Susan Kepra, who did such an excellent job on this case. They understood what is right, and they showed it to the jury. They are outstanding lawyers, and everyone at the Clifford Law Office did a tremendous job to help us through our darkness hours of our lives, of our years. No one should have to go through what we did. And the jury sent a message to my wife's doctor, to all doctors to pay closer attention to the medication they are prescribing. Today, they have the right. They have the patient's life in their hands, and they need to treat every single patient as an individual person. They need to be more careful when they prescribing dangerous drugs to make sure they are right for the person. He didn't take care of my wife, and now I have to do that for her. This verdict will allow me to get help that she needs for many years to come.
Okay, we're going to field any questions if anybody has any for Brad, Sarah, or Mr. Zabelski.
Can you talk a little bit about what your life was like before this tragedy occurred? Like did your wife work? What kind of activities did she like that she can't do anymore?
She liked to do things around the house. She was cleaning lady. She loves to decorate our place.
Describe how your life has been as the caretaker of the board.
After all this, it seems to be normal because I got too used to it, and I am happy we're still together.
How long have you been married?
We've been married for 8 years.
Do you have children?
No.
One of the reasons they were going to the physician that is the defendant in the case was that the couple at that point had been trying to have a baby. In fact, the main reason that they had gone to the physician is that they wanted to start a family. They had just recently gotten married and they wanted to have children, and that's why they went to see Dr. Aniel.
Did the doctor ever tell your client about these side effects or different dangers associated with the pill?
No. In fact, one of the issues that the jury in this case was asked to decide is whether or not Mariola Zapolski was given what is called informed consent, which is a legal concept that a patient has a right to understand all the risks and all the benefits of medical managements of certain conditions. And under the circumstances, there were two different ways in which this could be handled from a medical standpoint. A estrogen-based birth control pill like Yasmin, or a progesterone-only pill, and one of which carries with it a lot of risks for a patient like Mariola Zapolski, and the other one, which is much safer. And in fact, one of the key allegations in this case was that the doctor, the defendant in this case, did not offer to Mariola Zapolski the safer alternative of progesterone-only pill for her circumstance.
Do you know why?
I don't have a comment as to why. He just didn't. He should have.
philosophy has been.
What we hope, and certainly what we hope today will be about, is to raise awareness throughout Chicago and any community that is able to read any of the reports that come out as it relates to this circumstance, because a stroke is something that physicians should understand can occur with estrogen-based birth control pills like Yasmin, and they need to be particularly careful in prescribing this type of a medication to a patient who is not the right candidate for it.
Now, this is not your first encounter with a drug, correct? I mean, you personally, in your professional life?
I don't understand that.
Well, I understand that you had another suit, right, against the hospital?
Oh,
Resurrection.
What was
Yes.
Resurrection's
Gotcha.
role in this?
okay. Resurrection, there was only one lawsuit. Resurrection was named as a defendant, and there was a claim that the defendant, Dr. Annual, was the apparent agent of Resurrection Hospital. His office was in the hospital. In fact, the way in which the Zapolskis found Dr. Annual is they were Polish-speaking, and they wanted a Polish-speaking physician. So they went to the front desk at Resurrection Medical Center and said we were looking for a gynecologist obstetrician who speaks Polish. And they were directed by the front desk to go see Dr. Annual, and that's how they got to Dr. Annual's office on September 26th of 2007.
You went to specialties and OB.
Yes.
Is Yasmin being outlawed now, this type of drug, or what's the result of this?
The result of the verdict?
Yeah, although, because of this medication. Is it the medication itself, or is it just the risks associated with it?
Well, there are several different types of estrogen-containing birth control pills. They're called combined oral contraceptives. People use COC as the acronym for the drug. And combined oral contraceptives are used regularly throughout the United States. However, for patients who have certain risk factors, they are not patients who should be on combined oral contraceptives. And there's two different ways that you can manage a condition. And if you have a person who's taking birth control pills for contraceptive purposes, you can have an estrogen-based birth control pill and you can have a progesterone-based birth control pill. They're two different things. They carry with them different risks. If you're treating a medical condition like what was the circumstance here, as it relates to hormones, you can do it the same way. However, there is an estrogen-based birth control pill that you can use, and then there are progesterone-only pills that could be offered to patients that are much safer. And that's what this case was about.
Rafal, what is your job? What do you do for a living?
Currently, Mariel Zapolsky requires 24-hour care. He is her caretaker from the second she wakes up to the second she goes to bed and throughout the night.
Did he have to leave a job or
Yes.
profession? What was it?
He had a job that he wasn't able to do anymore because he could not go to work because somebody needed to be with her 24 hours a day.
What did he do?
Rafael, what did you do before?
I was CNC operator.
It's a factory work.
Okay.
Oh, like a machinist, you said?
Right.
Yes,
And what is your age?
44.
Are there any type of warnings or anything that you're aware of that the FDA is doing that particularly against this pill, any investigations, any warnings, anything that they've sent out?
Yeah, there's all kinds of investigations and discussions as it relates to the progesterone component of Yasmin.
Is Yas still on the market, and does this doctor still practice?
The physician that was the defendant in this case still practices medicine.
And is Yasmin still on the market?
You know, I don't want to comment on that. I'm not sure. I don't think it's an appropriate thing to comment about at this point.
The other thing too is that we were trying to figure out or find out, which hopefully we don't know because of the weekend, as to if this is even a record verdict or if it's even maybe the only verdict. We're not even sure because, I mean, there've been obviously a number of settlements in the case, with Yasmin, but we're not able because of the holiday weekend to verify, and I don't know how to do that. I mean, I guess a Google search might be one, but I don't know how reliable that would be. So we were trying to get that, and perhaps I'll know by Monday about more information on that, but unfortunately I can't say that with any certainty now. And Brad's been on trial, so when it came down, the verdict came down at about 5:20.
The jury began their deliberations on Good Friday at about 1.
Yeah, you gotta
Start over.
Gee.
The jury began its deliberations on Good Friday at about 1:15 in the afternoon, and in fact, the jury deliberated and they reached a verdict. The parties in the case were informed by the court that they had reached a verdict shortly after 5 o'clock on Good Friday, so the jury deliberated for approximately 4 hours prior to having the verdict read in open court.
Do you know if this physician has had any other lawsuits against?
I don't.
Is there a lesson here for doctors and patients to more thoroughly discuss possible risk factors?
I can't agree with this has anything to do with patients. If patients could practice medicine, they could do it themselves. You go to a doctor because they're the ones that are supposed to know the risk factors. The physicians are the ones that are supposed to know what questions to ask so that they can take into consideration risk factors that need to be considered prior to prescribing drugs.
And you say none of that was done by Dr. Angle?
None of what?
There was really no discussion of risk factors or anything of that nature?
Well, there was, a lot of our trial revolved around two different ways to look at your question. One, what are the risk factors? And then two, whether or not Dr. Annual appreciated the risk factors. And then three, whether or not he believed Mariola Zapolsky fit these certain risk factors. So I don't mean to convolute the answer, but it's a little bit more,
Okay.
it's a little bit more technical than that.
Trial was how long?
2 weeks and a day.
Okay.
Did Maria lose use of both of her hands or one of her hands?
Her left hand.
Can she not speak at all?
She has issues as it related to her stroke that causes her to have issues with executive function and communication.
Okay, any other questions? If not, then we're gonna go ahead, Brad, if you wanna bring Mariola. And could you, Sarah, pronounce their names exactly again, how they're said? Is it Rafal?
Rafal.
Oh, say it again?
Rafał Zapolski.
Rafal. Rafal Zapolsky.
Mariola Zapolsky.
Okay.
You do a better job.